North Africa, 1941. British Matilda tanks roll across the desert. These are the heaviest armored vehicles in the theater. Nothing the Germans have can touch them. Then the first tank explodes. The crew doesn't see the gun. They don't hear it coming. The shell punches through 2 inches of armor like paper. The Matilda erupts in flames before the commander can even radio a warning. Within 6 minutes, 12 tanks are burning husks. The weapon doing this? It wasn't designed to fight tanks at all. This is the story of the 88-centimeter flak gun, the anti-aircraft weapon that accidentally became the deadliest tank killer of World War II. The German military has a problem. Allied bombers are getting faster, flying higher. The old anti-aircraft guns can't reach them. When they do reach them, the shells arrive too late. The bomber has already moved. So Germany asks Krupp to build something new. The requirements are brutal. Hit targets at 26,000 feet. Fire shells at 2,690 feet per second. Do it accurately enough to hit a moving aircraft 5 miles up. No existing gun comes close. But here's what nobody planned for. The same specifications that make a gun lethal to aircraft make it absolutely devastating to anything on the ground. And in 3 years, that accident would change tank warfare forever. The 8.8-centimeter Flak 36 doesn't look like other guns. It sits on a cruciform base, 4 legs that spread out like a cross. This gives it 360-degree traverse. It can track aircraft in any direction without moving the entire gun. The barrel is 16 feet long. That length is critical. More barrel means more time for propellant gases to accelerate the shell. More acceleration means higher velocity. Higher velocity means flatter trajectory. At 2,690 feet per second, the 88 shells fly almost 3 times faster than a rifle bullet. The gun weighs 16,000 pounds. Normally, that's a problem. Heavy guns are hard to move, but Krupp engineers design it to mount on a special trailer, the SDAH 202. You can tow it behind a half-track at 25 miles per hour. When you stop, 4 men can have it unlimbered and ready to fire in 2.5 minutes. That mobility will matter more than anyone realizes. The ammunition is where the magic happens. Each 8.8-centimeter shell weighs 20 pounds. The propellant cartridge adds another 11 pounds. Total weight per round, 31 pounds. A trained crew can load and fire 15 rounds per minute. That's 1 shell every 4 seconds. For a gun this size, that rate of fire is insane. Here's how they do it. The gun uses a horizontal sliding breech block. You don't have to swing anything open, just slide it to the side, ram the shell, slam the breech closed, fire. The recoil system absorbs 40 tons of force with each shot. Without it, the gun would tear itself apart or flip over. Hydraulic cylinders compress, the barrel slides back 11 inches, springs return it to battery. Total time, less than 1 second. But rate of fire on paper means nothing in combat. In reality, crews rarely sustain 15 rounds per minute. The shells are heavy. The desert is hot. Men get tired. 10 rounds per minute is more realistic. Still, that's devastating when each round can kill a tank at 2 miles. And that's exactly what happened in 1940. May 1940. France. The Germans are pushing through the Ardennes. French and British tanks counterattack. The German Panzer III and IV tanks can't penetrate the Allied armor. Their 37mm and 50mm guns just bounce off. The German advance stalls. Then, a Luftwaffe officer, probably out of desperation, orders his 88mm anti-aircraft guns to depress their barrels and fire horizontally at the tanks. It works. The 88mm armor-piercing rounds go through French and British tanks like they're made of tin. Char B1s, Matildas. Heavy tanks that were supposed to be invulnerable. The 88 kills them at ranges where they can't even shoot back. This wasn't planned. There was no doctrine for it, no special training, just crews improvising under fire. But word spreads fast. By North Africa, Rommel turns the improvisation into a system. Rommel understands something other commanders don't. The 88 isn't just a weapon, it's a trap. Here's how he uses it. He positions 88s in concealed positions, behind ridges, in depressions, anywhere the long barrel won't silhouette against the sky. Then he puts regular anti-tank guns out front as bait. British tanks advance, they knock out the visible German guns, they think they've won, then they roll into the 80s kill zone. The first indication is usually a tank exploding. The report of the 88 arrives after the shell hits. By the time you hear the gun, someone is already dead. The 88 can penetrate 4 inches of armor at 2,000 yards. Most tanks in 1941 have less than 3 inches on the front. None have 4 inches on the sides. This means the 88 can shoot through the front of your tank from distances where you can't see the gun. If you angle to protect your front, it shoots through your side. There's no counter except artillery or air support, and both take time to coordinate. The Germans don't stop with the Flak 36. They introduce the Flak 41. Longer barrel, higher velocity, 3,280 feet per second. It can penetrate the front armor of a Sherman tank at 3,000 yards. But the Flak 41 has problems. It's heavier, harder to move. The barrel wears out faster. They only build 556 of them. Then there's the POC 43. This is the 88 redesigned from the ground up as a dedicated anti-tank gun. Lower profile, better traverse, purpose-built instead of adapted. The POC 43 appears in 1943. It's mounted on everything: towed carriages, tank destroyers like the Nashorn and Jagdpanther, even the King Tiger heavy tank. This version can punch through 7 inches of armor at 1,000 yards. That's enough to kill any Allied tank from the front at any combat range. But production numbers tell the real story. Germany builds 20,754 flak guns in the 88mm family. They build only 2,100 POC 43s. Why? Because they still need the flak guns for their original purpose. Allied bombers are destroying German cities. Inside a tank hit by an 88, death comes in multiple ways. The shell itself kills through penetration. It punches a hole through the armor and keeps going. Anyone in the path dies instantly. The shell doesn't need to explode. Kinetic energy alone is enough. But penetration creates secondary effects. The impact sprays molten metal fragments through the crew compartment. These fragments are supersonic. They shred everything they touch. If the shell hits ammunition storage, the tank explodes. Crews call this brewing up. The term sounds almost cheerful. The reality is that the crew burns alive or dies from overpressure when the ammunition detonates. Tank crews in North Africa give the 88 a nickname, the 88 of Doom. British crews develop a fatalistic attitude. If you hear the gun, you're probably already hit. If you're hit, you're probably dead. The best you can do is bail out fast if your tank doesn't explode immediately. Average life expectancy for a tank crew facing 88 seconds in North Africa, 6 weeks. By 1943, everyone wants an 88. The Soviets capture hundreds of them. They study the design. They're already working on high-velocity anti-tank guns, but the 88 influences their thinking. Bigger caliber, higher velocity, longer range. The Americans take a different approach. They decide firepower isn't the answer. Mobility is. The Sherman tank is designed to outmaneuver guns like the 88, not outfight them. This strategy has mixed results. The British go harder. They develop the 17-pounder anti-tank gun. It's not as powerful as the 88, but it's close, 3,000 feet per second, enough to kill German heavy tanks from the front. But here's the irony. None of these nations build a gun as versatile as the 88. They build anti-tank guns or anti-aircraft guns, not one weapon that does both. The 80's dual role is what made it special, and that dual role is what doomed it. Post-war, the 88mm concept dies. Modern anti-aircraft warfare moves to radar-guided missiles. Guns can't hit jets traveling at 600 miles per hour. Missiles can. Anti-tank warfare splits into two paths. Guns get bigger and more specialized, or they get replaced entirely by guided missiles. The Soviet T-55 tank mounts a 100mm gun. The British Chieftain uses 120mm. The American M60 starts with 105mm and moves to 120mm. But the real replacement for the 88 isn't another gun. It's the wire-guided anti-tank missile, the Soviet AT-3 Sager, the American TOW, the Swedish RBS-56 Bill. These missiles have the 88's reach and killing power, but they're portable. A two-man team can carry and fire them. You don't need a 16,000-pound gun and a crew of 11. Still, gun technology continues the path the 88 started. High velocity, flat trajectory, long range, kinetic penetration. The 80's DNA lives on in every modern tank gun. The 8.8-centimeter flak gun appears in 15,000 combat actions during World War II. It shoots down an estimated 20,000 aircraft. It destroys approximately 10,000 tanks and armored vehicles. These numbers are rough. Record-keeping in combat is imperfect, but the impact is measurable in doctrine. After the war, every major military adopts the lesson: anti-aircraft guns must be capable of ground combat. Multi-role weapons become standard. The 88's also creates a psychological impact that outlasts its tactical effectiveness. Tankers in Korea worry about 88's, even though North Korea doesn't have any. The reputation becomes legend. Today, you can see 88's in museums worldwide. Some still work. Collectors fire them occasionally at ranges in the United States and Europe. The design is 90 years old, but the principle remains current. High velocity beats heavy armor. Range beats protection. Speed beats mass. That's the 80's real legacy, not the gun itself, but what it proved was possible. The 88 started as an anti-aircraft gun. It became the most feared tank killer of the war. And it did it by accident. That's the irony. The weapon that revolutionized anti-tank warfare wasn't designed for that role. It succeeded because its designers were solving a completely different problem. Sometimes the best solutions come from unexpected places. Thanks for watching.